Hello Nidorinas and Nidorinos, I'm KingNido and today it is the Levincia Wonders going up against the Laverre Constrictors, and as these two sides have a look at their opening hands, let's have a look at this tale of the tape where for the Laverre Constrictors they're currently sitting in 9th place and they are trying desperately to make their way up into the top 5 and make their debut inside of Victory Road, whereas for the Laverre Constrictors they are only 1 place above the Wonders and they want to return to Victory Road for the first time since Season A1. So with all that said, let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win this matchup. Will it be the Lightning decks? Will it be the Psychic decks? Let's go!
3, 2, 1, go!
And starting off this matchup, it is going to be the Blush Mountain deck of the Levincia Wonders, moving their Emolga into the active spot as their only basic Pokemon, and it is the Constrictors with their Ruins of Life deck, moving their Tapu Lele as their only basic Pokemon into the active spot, but the Wonders have just pulled their Alolan Golem. There's not much else they can do, so they do send it over to the Constrictors, who pull their Phantom, and they do have a Pokeball in hand, which they do play, so this guarantees they're going to get another basic Pokemon, being the Necrozma, who we have seen wreak havoc this season in one game at least, as the Energy Arrow does require the opposing Pokemon to have energy on them, so this damage from Tapu Lele does nothing to Emolga, and the Wonders are going to pull their leftovers, so another card that is not a basic Pokemon, sorry, but they attach the leftovers to the Emolga. This will ensure that it restores 10 health at the end of every turn of the Wonders, not in between the turns of the two sides, and they are going to get an energy for that Static Shock, 30 damage here onto the Tapu Lele, making it stronger than what the Tapu Lele can do to it, as the second Tapu Lele, which I've said a number of times now, is pulled into the hand of the Constrictors. They get an energy onto the Phantom, and the Energy Arrow begins to do that 20 damage here to the Emolga, and this may make the Wonders reluctant to add energy here to Emolga because it doesn't require any additional. They have just pulled their second Sophocles. We can see the rare candy, the Lily, and the second rare candy in hand as they get another 30 damage onto Tapu Lele here, who only has 30 health remaining, and there is that 10 health being restored for the Emolga as the Professor's Research is pulled for the Constrictors. They play this supporter card immediately and they are going to draw their second Necrozma and the big Malasada. This can take Tapu Lele out of discard range. They get a second energy onto the Phantom and they are going to retreat the Tapu Lele. They do not want to drop a point here in game 1, getting 30 damage onto the Emolga. The Wonders need to pull a basic Pokemon. They pull the Electrical Cord. There is no basic Pokemon. They have an empty bench, and if Emolga is discarded, they will lose the game because they will have no Pokemon. They can move into the active spot. They go with the Static Shock, 30 damage onto the Phantom, but there's also a Trevenant in hand of this Ruins of Life deck. They are going to pull the second Trevenant as well. This rack down does 70 damage. All they have to do is place an energy onto the Trevenant here, and it is going to wipe this Emolga off the board, and just like that, the Constrictors with their Ruins of Life deck have taken game 1 over the Wonders. And as we have our first table reset, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the action in the PokeType League TCG. And it is going to be the Wonders going first here with their Ruins of Conflict deck. We'll see if it can be as beneficial as it was for the Ruins of Life deck and the Constrictors. The Togedemaru going into the active spot, the Tapu Koko on the bench. The Constrictors, we can see, have got their Thrifty Treats deck, and they've already got the Alcremie in hand, which is fantastic because they have that Milcery. They do also have the Comfey and the Mimikyu, plus another Pokeball. Now, this is our game 2, but all 3 games here count towards the leaderboard. Each team will get 2 victory points for each match they win. You can get a maximum of 6 victory points, but every battle point taken, those 3 knockouts that are required to win a match, or in the case of the previous game, that single one that we saw, still count towards the leaderboard, as do all the damage. It is the Luxio being pulled for the Wonders, and they do have that Luxray in hand, but they send it over to the Constrictors, and they do pull another Professor's Research, which they go to play before the Pokeball, but they change their mind, so they want the basic Pokemon first. They get their second Comfey in hand, and now they're going with the Professor's Research, getting an additional 2 cards. They get the Swirlix and they get the big Malasada, and the Swirlix does get moved on to the bench, who also has that Sweets Relay, as does Milcery. It does 10 damage when Milcery goes on the offensive with this. If it does it in consecutive turns, it does an additional 20 on that following turn. But for every Sweets Relay we see, our Creamy is able to do 40 damage for each one. So much damage can be maximized by the Creamy, but it is the leftovers put onto the Togedemaru. It does get that one required energy it needs. That Electro Smash is a coin flip. It does 20, gets an extra 30 if they flip their heads, but it gets an extra 30 for the Sophocles they just played. And this will guarantee that Milcery is discarded. They flip the tails, but it doesn't matter because that's 50 damage, wiping Milcery into the discard pile, and the Wonders finally get a point in this series by taking down the Milcery. It is the Swirlix though being moved into the active spot for the Constrictors, as Togedemaru does have that 10 health restored thanks to the leftovers. There's the second Milcery being pulled for the Constrictors as well, immediately being moved onto the bench. They need to try and capitalize as much Sweets Relay as they can get into play. It will do 30 damage because it was done on the previous turn. It works the same for the Swirlix as it does the Milcery. 30 damage onto the Togedemaru as the Lily is pulled for the Wonders, and they start setting up the Tapu Koko, who does require 3 energy, and there it is, the tail is being flipped, so it's only 20 damage being done to the Swirlix here. Togedemaru continuing to restore its health with those leftovers in play. The Constrictors pulling their second El Creamy. Unfortunately, only one of them can be used, and they are thinking of getting it into play, and that is the decision they have gone with. Now, we've seen the Sweets Relay twice, which means their Sweets Overload is capable of doing 80 damage at the moment, but we see it for a third time, 30 more damage here onto the Togedemaru. That puts the Sweets Overload at 120. And it is the Blitzel being pulled for the Wonders, as well as they get a second energy onto the Tapu Koko. That Volt Switch does 70 damage, but it means it immediately goes back to the bench. As they flip their head, Swirlix is going to be wiped off the board. That 50 damage from the Electro Smash of the Togedemaru. One more point and the Wonders will take game 2, and they need this after that showing, that unfortunate showing in game 1. Togedemaru continuing to restore its health, but we know the Sweets Overload, and it only requires 1 energy. As they pull the Slurpuff 1 turn too late, they could have gotten that online to continue those Sweets Relays, but 120 damage. Togedemaru has been discarded from this match, and the Thrifty Treats deck have finally gotten their first point in this contest, and the Wonders are going to move the Tapu Koko into the active spot. Now, they have just pulled a rare candy here, still no Shinx in hand, but they're going to put the Electrical Cord onto Tapu Koko. A very interesting choice because it will retreat from the Volt Switch, so it will not be moving those lightning energy off of it, as it does just receive its third 70 damage onto the old Creamy. It is the Acer Roller being pulled for the Constrictors, who allows them to move damage off of a Mimikyu onto the opposing Pokemon, but Mimikyu is still in hand here. And the Constrictors thinking about how they can approach this. They can get 120 damage, but if they drop another point, they will lose this game 2 to the Ruins of Conflict deck, and I think they're aware of that, going with the Sweets Overload, absolutely obliterating the Blitzel, but this will free up the Tapu Koko to be moved into the active spot, and El Creamy only has 10 health remaining. They desperately needed that Slurpuff eternally, or for that Togedemaru to not get the 50 damage on the Electro Smash, because that Volt Switch wipes El Creamy off the board, and the Ruins of Conflict deck will take game 2 as we go to our game 3 decider. And with the table being reset for the final time, it is going to be the Constrictors going first with their Forbidden Light deck up against the Lost Thunder deck of the Wonders. We can see the 2 Oricourios in hand, and they do move one of them into the active spot. It is the Necrozma going on to the bench with that Psych ability capable of 100 damage. The Joltik being moved into the active spot for the Wonders with the Xurkitree on the bench. Both sides having that Ultra Beast there on the bench. And it is, as we said, the Constrictors going first, pulling the Morlola as well. They've also got the Mallow and the Big Melisada in hand. The Morlola going on the bench. They do end their turn, and it comes over to the Wonders, who pull the Galvantula, already having the Joltik in hand. This is fantastic for them. We can see they've got the leftovers, the Guzma, and the Beastlight that can be attached to an Ultra Beast. 10 damage onto the Oricorio. If they flip their heads, it will be left paralyzed, and that is exactly what happens, which means they will not be able to retreat the Oricorio. However, it does require 2 energy to go on the offensive. Morlow being pulled once again for the Constrictors here, and that Dawn Wings Necrozma getting its first energy as the Oricorio is cured of that paralysis. The Oricorio for the Wonders being pulled. It unfortunately doesn't get to capitalize on that safeguard against Pokemon EX cards, except for when they go up against the Holon allies, but that is a whole nother story for that side. The only time we've ever made the exception for an EX card to be in the PokeType League TCG, as the Electric Shock from the Galvantula wipes Oricorio off the board. The Wonders with their Lost Thunder deck have taken the first point here in Game 3. But it is the Necrozma moved into the active spot, and the Professor's Research being pulled for the Constrictors, again being played immediately, getting those additional 2 cards. It is the Lunatone and the second Mallow, and Lunatone immediately moved onto the bench here, as the second energy for the Necrozma it still requires 1 more. The Wonders have pulled their Beast Wall, which can only be played whilst the opposing side have not taken any points. Now Galvantula does have a 0 retreat cost. They do get a first energy onto the Oricorio. Galvantula staying in the active spot. They're willing to leave it there. And they're willing to let that Necrozma be set up, with, as we said, with the Psychobilly, 100 damage, wiping the Galvantula off the board, but it does do 30 damage to itself in the process, as this Forbidden Light deck have taken their first point. Whoever takes the 3 battle points in this match will win the overall series, getting those extra 2 victory points counted towards the leaderboard. The second Oricorio being pulled, moved onto the bench, but with that zap from Oricorio getting its second energy, going on the offensive, 50 damage onto the Necrozma, bringing it down to 30 health. And it is the Lunatone being pulled for the Constrictors. They have the big Melisada in hand. They do get that first energy onto the benched Lunatone here. And with that big Melisada, it can keep Lunatone from discarding itself in this match. And that is exactly what they're going to do now. If they attach the Beastite, what it does is it allows them to do an additional 10 damage for every point they've taken. So this Psychobilly is capable of 110 damage. That is exactly the play they've gone with. Another 30 damage back onto the Necrozma, as the Oricorio has been discarded. The Constrictors are 1 point away from taking this series. The Xurkitree being moved into the active spot. They need the Lusamine, but they pull the big Melisada. Now they have their own Beastite in hand. They've also got the Guzma that can get the Beastite of the Necrozma discarded from this match. They're thinking about what they want to do, and they're just going to end it. They don't even play the Guzma. Clearly, they did not see any hope for them. That would have at least meant they took 20 less damage, because the Necrozma absolutely wipes this Xurkitree off the board, taking itself out in the process with the recall damage. But this allows the Constrictors to get their 3rd battle point and win Game 3 to take the overall series in this very back and forth match. But the Constrictors move up into 5th place, as next round they are going up against the Holon Allies, whereas for the Wonders in 9th place still, next round will be going up against the Turffield Ebonies. But until then, Nidorinos, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what cards you pulled today, and if you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, always remember, send thanks, and I'll see you when you see me.